In a world obsessed with rankings, two men dare to chisel greatness out of metaphorical granite, one wildly subjective opinion at a time. This show, every episode, we select four icons from a single topic and immortalize them in our own personal halls of fame. Subjective? Absolutely. Debatable? Always. Set in stone? Until next week. Welcome to the Mount Rushmore Show, where your top four says everything about you. I'm Mike Mintz. Joe, you're back this week. You missed out on the mobile video games, which we'll get up on the RSS here shortly, but welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Bummer I missed the video games one. I have a lot of nostalgia with video games. We've done a video game episode before, which had me impulsively after that podcast buy a PlayStation 2 and several games after it, which I had a rule I couldn't have it in my house out of fear of overuse. It's don't if you're an alcoholic, don't spend too much time at the bar, even if you're not drinking, because otherwise you're gonna have a drink. So I donated it to a local cause, but it was an impulse buy. I'm afraid I would have maybe done the same if I was part of that podcast. So you may have just saved me $500.
Well, there's a quite a bit of excitement playing those old school video games, and I've actually kind of noticed like Joe, there's some nostalgia based with this particular episode too, but there's a lot of real time cutting, and I just wanted to, I guess, before I started, I didn't know if you had seen the Ronda Rousey Gina Carano fight from last night.
I haven't. Give me the. I did watch the Netflix series leading up to it, which gave you. It's kind of like their new version of 24/7 that Jake Paul's company's been doing to promote fights, and it's well made. It's cool. It gives you history of both fighters, their training camps. You have a full scope on the narrative, which to me that's what fighting is all about, and frankly, sports. It's the narrative. But what'd you take away? What was the outcome? What I miss?
17 seconds. Ronda Ronda Rousey. It was predictable, right? She was a 700
I
point
agree.
favorite, so 17-second armbar on Gina Carano. I think there's some real history there that makes it worthwhile. It's like watching a Tyson fight back in the 90s. It's going to be a first round knockout. You know that going in, and that's what you're paying to see, right? So.
Well, neither fighter's in their prime. We knew that coming in. But Ronda Rousey's much closer to her prime than Gina is. But I respect Gina as a pioneer for women's fighting, and that Ronda Rousey took to another stratosphere to where it is now. But have you seen the movie Haywire with Gina?
I have actually. I didn't mind Haywire, the Soderbergh film. That I thought it was pretty decent. So
I thought it was fantastic.
yeah.
Gina's become, for those who don't know, a bit of an action star, starting in who would have thought, a Steven Soderbergh movie, the director of Traffic and the Oceans movies, picked a fighter from the UFC, a woman fighter that has never acted before, to star in a movie with Michael Fassbender as the supporting role. Like, talk about a tough first performance. And now she is often in other action movies, like some Marvel, Deadpool stuff.
Oh yeah.
She's made a career for herself, but I think after some political annexing for her career, she kind of got canceled of a tweet. I won't go into why on her views. This felt a bit of a money grab, which made me kind of sad.
You mean the idea of the fight as a money grab?
That's true. I mean, I believe she needed it more than Ronda Rousey did. Let's just say that. Although
Oh,
there's always a number, no matter how wealthy you are, that you're like, yeah, I'll take that.
absolutely. And I think that was part of the story going into it, Joe, for me, was the idea that the UFC and mixed martial arts don't really pay these fighters, what you would think of as professional boxers might be making in a marquee fight. The opportunity to make legitimate money here, while on one hand seems like a cash grab, on for me it seems like payback. What they deserved, what they didn't get when they were at their primes, they're getting kind of it now, and I'm okay with that. So
Watching the Netflix series, I mean, you can only read what they're telling you. For Ronda, it seemed more of a passionate fight. She on her camp, it made more, I need to prove again how dominant I am. And it felt like this is her comeback to start, but she's not done. Whereas Gina, it felt like this is my last hurrah. Whereas Ronda, I feel like she's going to continue to participate in UFC now. It'd be exciting to have her back.
I don't think so. And here's my 2 cents on that
Really?
thing. Well, I think Rhonda's an interesting case where I feel like she's pretty much an open book. She went out on those last two fights where she just got knocked out twice. That was an ugly finish to a career. Nobody wants that as their last two fights. This was a
Right.
real opportunity to come back and armbar somebody in less than 20 seconds and look as dominant as you did in the beginning. To me, this is the end. If I know anything about Ronda Rousey, I doubt she's even going to take an opportunity to tarnish the legacy spin that she's been able to put on with this last fight. So
I think you're right, but also at the
I would
same
love to
time,
see more.
I
Yeah.
think she got a taste of what it felt like to be victorious in the ring again, and that's a hard high to just let go.
I hope you're right. I would love to see more Ronda Rousey. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know. We'll see. Joe, there's other action, live sports, including tonight, Game 7, Eastern Conference semifinals, determine the final bracket. Pistons, Cavs, thoughts?
Yes, well, sorry, folks, for spending 10 minutes on UFC, which we will not be talking about for Mount Rushmore Day. But before I get into that, because our episode is going to be NBA focused, you're Sixers. You're wearing a Sixers shirt. I thought they had a great series against Boston, and it was a surprise to see them go to second round. Disappointing end in the second round. But what are your thoughts on the season? Would you take the outcome you saw this year to start the year if you knew going in, or are you disappointed?
No, not disappointed at all. Anytime you win a playoff series, I think making the playoffs, half the teams make it, right? So like you just got to have at least a winning record to get in there. It's like making a bowl game. You should do it, right? But winning a series, I think, is more impactful. And anytime you can do that, especially if you get an exciting game 7, which I watched, put on my shirt, watched the game, helped the team win. I turned on a couple of the Knicks games for about a half and turned them off. Those were those were beatings that the Sixers took. But hey, we got there, and I guess at the end of the day, I'm content with that. I'm not shooting for the stars or have any sort of unrealistic expectations for them. It was cool to see Embiid come back, even though he was not quite at full strength, but it was good. It was good. I'm happy.
Well, it was cool to see him back, and then disappointed to see him out again in the second round, which is why I think they ultimately got swept. I think if Embiid was healthy, like he was the last few games in the Boston series, in the Knicks series, it would have been a different outcome. I'm not saying they would have necessarily beat the Knicks, but I don't think it would have been a sweep by any means.
Yeah, you don't. The sweeps are tough, and here's the thing, though: the Knicks are really good, Joe. They're really good this year.
Yeah.
So.
Them and OKC are the perennial favorites to win both sides, even though we haven't even started the conference finals. But the end of NBA playoffs, not only in full swing, but the draft lottery just happened too. And every fan base in America at the same time when these things happen is talking themselves into a championship run while also convincing themselves their 19-year-old draft prospect is the next face of the league. This is one of the best times of the sports calendar. And you mentioned to start, tonight feels massive with game 7. You got Cavs Pistons. I'm taking Cleveland. I think Cade Cunningham is probably the best player on the floor and honestly already looks like a future MVP candidate. But Cleveland just has a better overall starting five. They got more experience in the playoffs, and they got more guys capable of creating offense. When I watch Detroit, it feels like although they're number one seed, 60 wins, they still feel like they haven't found a closing five that they're comfortable with. The chemistry is not there like it is with Cleveland. But Cade is such the outlier they can get away with a lot. I think they're going to get exposed tonight, even at home. What do you think?
I'm actually going with you here. We'll share this one. I just think Detroit's got too many cracks for a number one. I think that we've seen them not be able to really dominate the way that a number one should, like the Knicks or something like that on the other side. I don't know, part of me, I want to see Cleveland as a 4 seed take them out and get into the conference finals. So I'm going the same way. So.
James Harden has a reputation for not showing up in big moments in the playoffs. I like the idea of him overcoming that. I think he had a big game 5. I think game 6 was disappointing, and tonight he has the opportunity to show people at the latter half of his career because it's not always true, right? I mean, he's been in the NBA Finals and had big moments with OKC. He's been in the Western Conference Finals in Houston. Yes, he's had some game six and sevens where he didn't show up, but it's not like it's every night. And I think this is a good night for him to show to overcome a reputation.
And that's what's beautiful about sports like this is when you
Yeah.
get a big name marquee player like a James Harden who's been around and the expectations are there, right? There's pressure being put on those shoulders. And I think the mark of greatness is seeing when a player delivers in those moments. And if they don't, I think that that's also the court of public opinion starts to turn against you and go, well, are you great? What is the definition there? And I think it's moments like this. I think it's game sevens, and I think it's when you're the name, you got to show up. Today's the day. Tonight's the night.
And looking ahead, unless something completely unexpected happens, it feels like we're headed towards OKC versus New York finals. And I'd love to see New York somehow pull it off because that fan base deserves one unbelievable basketball moment before the apocalypse, which is bound to happen in New York. It does. Look at the Jets.
Yeah.
But
It's
unless
pro.
something catastrophic happens, OKC does feel inevitable right now. They're deep, they defend, they have stars, they have shooting. And unlike a lot of the young teams, they already play with championship level composure. It feels like we're watching the start of a dynasty.
Yeah, 8-0. I mean, two sweeps or whatever, just completely dominant right now. With the playoffs and or with the players and everything. I'm with you though. Like the Knicks, you kind of have some hope back there. They, as far as any franchises could, it's like the Red Sox, right? Back in the early 2000s, where it's like, come on, just for one time, make it happen. So,
And I can relate a little bit because while the playoffs dominate the present, the NBA draft lottery just gave a lot of fan bases hope for the future, including mine, because somehow, some way, the Washington Wizards actually won the lottery. I'm a lifelong emotionally damaged Wizards fan. I genuinely don't know how to process optimism anymore. And honestly, this feels like it came 1 year late because last year we tanked. We desperately wanted the number one pick with guys like Cooper Flagg, Con Knipple, and Dylan Harper already looking like future stars in 1 year. Meanwhile, the Wizards, in classic Wizards fashion, managed to fully bottom out without fully cashing in on the reward of the worst record in the league. But suddenly things look, maybe I would say competent, a strong word. You bring in Trae Young, you take a swing on Anthony Davis, you got promising young talent with Alex Sarr and Bub Carrington, and now potentially adding AJ Dybantsa with the number one pick. All of a sudden, you can at least visualize a real basketball team. And if everything breaks right, I honestly think we could push towards a 4 or 5 seed in the East. I'm not getting too far ahead of my skis though, because this is the Wizards. I would not be remotely surprised if they traded the pick for two future seconds while Trae and AD combined to play 30 games. But right now, in this moment, there is hope, which honestly is all the lottery is really selling you anyway, is hope. Historically, the Wizards have given fans almost none of it. You know, the team hasn't won 50 games since 78-79, which is the
jeez.
same year that they won the NBA championship. And to think about how insane that is, they had the Michael Jordan Wizards years, the Gilbert Arenas era, Hibachi, Agent Zero, that was fun for me. The John Wall and Bradley Beal years, I still remember being at that Celtics series and at home when they won in game one. Multiple rebuilds, multiple lottery picks, and not one conference finals appearance, which is why the draft lottery matters so much in the NBA. Because basketball, maybe more than any other sport, one player can completely alter the direction of a franchise. And that's what this episode is going to be about. The NBA draft lottery itself has become one of the weirdest and most fascinating traditions in sports. It started in 1985 after the NBA wanted to stop teams from openly tanking for the top pick. Kind of ironic now, right?
Right.
Before that, the worst teams essentially just flipped a coin for the number one selection. Then naturally, the very first lottery somehow ends with the New York Knicks getting the rights to draft Patrick Ewing. Immediately, the conspiracy theory started. The frozen envelope, the bent corner, the NBA rigging things for major markets. And honestly, the lottery has never escaped that conversation today. Every fan base thinks the NBA is against them until their team finally wins. Because lottery picks can completely change sports history. Somehow, they save franchises forever. Other picks completely destroy them. I mean, look at last year with Luka Doncic
Yeah,
going
Doncic.
to the Lakers. There's conspiracy there. All of a sudden, a team in the play-in now gets number one pick over the Wizards going to eight. I feel like the Wizards got the first overall pick this year to end the conspiracy talks of last year. It was like it was rigged for the Wizards this year when it should have been last year.
It's a
It
conspiracy.
wouldn't have been sexy to rig. A reverse conspiracy. But Mike and I are going to take two different approaches here to our Mount Rushmore. Mike, what is yours going to be tailored towards, and what's your
I,
criteria?
so I'm taking the draft saviors. I'm always on the positive end, apparently. The NBA draft is an interesting little mechanism that they put into place with this lottery system, which we'll definitely talk about. But I'm taking the players that got the picked. They got the luck on their side, the franchises, and they were able to get a person that actually made a difference. Now, my criteria is a little bit interesting in the fact of how did the lottery actually affect things? How did they play out? And what do I mean by franchise savior versus great player? I don't know. That's where I'm at. So.
Are you a conspiracy theorist with the draft lottery?
I'll be honest with you, Joe, doing the research, I feel like I did not get enough research for this one. Not that I haven't done good research, but the more I dug into it, the more I was like, just felt like I was scratching the surface. There's so much into this. And you start to go, man, I don't know if it's just pure luck, if the gods are pulling some weird strings to make it more fascinating or interesting. There's something to all of this, and I've got quite a few of them on here that have some really interesting, significant effects within the lottery. It's going to be fun.
Did you ever see the Jim Rome interview with David Stern?
No, I haven't.
Oh, infamous lottery conspiracy conversation where Jim Rome, the guy's got balls. I mean, he called Jim Everett Chris Everett and he punched him in the face. He's not afraid to say things to athletes. So David Stern says to his face, "Is the draft lottery rigged?" And David Stern is so offended that he says, "That's like asking me if I cheat on my wife. Like, how could you ask me that?" He's so offended. That David Stern, different commissioner, different time. He can get away with those swings. Now, today's commissioner probably wouldn't do that, nor would he be in a position to ask. It's much more political. But obviously, the NBA will forever deny it. And if you really look into the weeds of it, how to rig it, I don't see how they could do it the way the system works. It's very complicated with these balls. I mean, I just don't see how it plays out. And plus, you're cherry picking. Like, why give San Antonio Wemby if that's the case? They're not the biggest market.
Well, actually, I think that's exactly that last point there, Joe, I think is going to set you up nicely too. But like to the point of, can you actually predict what any of this is ultimately going to do in the long run? And obviously you can't, which sets up yours. What do you have, Joe, for your side of this whole thing?
Yeah, I'm gonna take the darker side of the draft lottery, and that's the Mount Rushmore of these draft busts. And specifically, I'm only discussing number one overall picks.
Okay.
Guys who came into the league with massive expectations and for one reason or another completely fell flat.
Well, I mean, this is going to be an interesting dichotomy, right? On one hand, you have the franchise saviors that might have had a little bit of luck on their side. On the other side, you had all of the hope and the luck. Lady Luck was in your corner, and it turned out to be a monkey's paw, right? A bad situation that seemed like it was going to be good on the surface.
And sometimes it's just comparison is the thief of all joy. It's not that their careers were necessarily that terrible. It's that you compare them to other guys in that draft class, it makes it look way worse.
Absolutely.
Why don't you start off, Mike?
All right, let's kick it off. Well, I'm gonna give a little bit of a rundown here. The NBA draft lottery. If you didn't know, it's a multi-billion-dollar future of a franchise that is determined by a machine that looks suspiciously like the one at your local senior center's Tuesday night bingo sessions with ping pong balls and spinning and people picking them out. Now, to be fair, I don't believe you actually get to see the process happen. They simply do it in a darkened room and then tell you about it. For 40 years, we've watched grown men in expensive suits sweat over these plastic ping pong balls, hoping for a miracle to wash away the sins of a 60 loss season. Additionally, I want to say there's 1,000 different combinations of these ping pong balls that you can get. So, however it works, you have to be a mathematical genius. But let's take a look at perhaps some of the greatest of these picks. And I'm going to talk about, envelopes, conspiracy theories, and the argument that maybe the OG is still the best. If you didn't know, I'm going with Patrick Ewing, the first 1985 number one overall pick. Why? For two reasons. One, the conspiracy is interesting, but also, let's be honest. Patrick Ewing defined the Knicks in the 80s and 90s, right? He was the man. And he went on to have an absolutely fantastic career. Two NBA Finals appearances in 94 and 99, dominant force throughout his career. He never wins a championship, but it was more than worth it considering that for the subsequent 40 years of lottery futility, the since 1985, the Knicks have only improved their pick position through the lottery one time. So he was the savior of the Knicks, at least at the time. But I also wanted to talk about that frozen envelope. So before the ping pong balls, Joe, they used to draw envelopes. There were seven of them for the bottom seven teams. And the frozen envelope theory basically stated that when Stern reached his hand in there, he could tell by feel which one was the Knicks. But why? Why put Ewing on the Knicks? Well, the conspiracy goes a little bit deeper. The idea was that the NBA was eager to boost television ratings, specifically in a place that was a big market. That would make somebody like a generational star of Ewing's caliber really, really a perfect fit in some place like New York City. So, did they do it? I mean, I think that it's pretty obvious that they didn't, but man, everything is kind of fascinating nonetheless.
Obviously, successful career, very exciting years at the Knicks. And man, it's one of those what ifs because of Michael Jordan just spoiled so many people's careers opportunity. I think of Ewing and Charles Barkley, two
Mhm.
guys in almost any other era would have pulled out a championship and just wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, it's true. And even though he doesn't win one, he's still one of the greatest players of all time. And, spends his entire career basically with the Knicks. The logo and him are, at least in the 80s and 90s, are inextricably linked. So he's the franchise savior, first round lottery draft pick and first lottery draft pick of all time. So
Yeah, good pick. Selfishly, as a DC Georgetown guy in college, I was thinking if you're gonna rig it for his back home team, DC Bullets at the time.
that's
Didn't work
right.
out that way.
Well, Joe, we had some positive here and some conspiracy theory. What about the negative side of the draft? What do you got for your first bust?
My first pick is gonna be Greg Oden.
Odin's razor, right? So, Raven, yeah. So
Honestly, this one is sad more than anything else. Came out of Ohio State at 18, looked like he was 38, first off. But he also looked like the next dominant NBA center. He was huge, athletic. He was elite defender, elite rebounder, and he led them all the way to the national championship game. People forget how hyped Greg Oden was because the injuries erased that memory. This wasn't considered some controversial pick at the time. Many analysts genuinely believe Oden was a safer prospect over little known guy Kevin Durant because elite two-way centers were viewed as franchise changing players. And I don't think Kevin's Durant inability to bench press at the combine was helpful to him too. They thought he couldn't hold up in the league. He was too skinny. There were a lot of narratives circling that we forget now. And when you watch the tape, you kind of get it. He looked like the next great NBA big man. The problem is that his body completely betrayed him. Knee injuries started immediately. Surgeries piled up. Entire seasons were disappearing. Rehab after rehab after rehab. And the cruelest part is that when he actually played, he showed flashes of greatness. which somehow almost makes it worse because now Greg Oden has become one of the biggest what ifs in NBA history.
Great pick, by the way. I want to see the dude's birth certificate. There's all sorts of birth arguments. Danny Almonte from a couple weeks ago when we did his, when he was too old to play. Uh, you know, Greg Oden looked like he was a 40-year-old man, but he was 18 years old. But then he playing like his leg. Did he have like that the movie Jack, where they have like that generative, disease where you age backwards or something or
The
something? I
little
don't
Benjamin
know.
Button thing going
Yeah,
on.
Benjamin Button thing going on. I don't know. Here's the thing about Greg Oden. He played 82 games in 5 years.
Yeah.
So he was just injured all the time. But what an excitement. And you're absolutely right. I don't think anybody could have predicted he would have been the bust that he ended up being. Certainly not the Trailblazers. So,
Yeah, and it wasn't due to talent either. That's the bummer
no,
part of it.
yeah, that's
But now
tough.
give me some hope again.
Well, okay. Well, I'm wearing the shirt. I might as well go with my boy, Allen Iverson. Selected number one overall pick by the Sixers in 1996. But here's the deal. The circumstances of his selection and his performance made him a defining franchise savior in the so-called lottery era. Let's start maybe because everybody probably knows about his stats. So let's talk about what's unique about his draft in particular. Well, it turns out that the Sixers actually didn't win. The Raptors won the draft, but there was an agreement with the NBA that these expansion teams, the Raptors and the Grizzlies, would be ineligible to receive the first overall pick in 96, 97, and 98. So they re-picked, and the lucky redraw just happened to go to the 76ers. And so all of a sudden, Iverson becomes the prize of the draft class. Of course, it'll be rookie of the year. There was lots of other players in there. Kobe Bryant, Steve Nash, Ray Allen were all in there. But why did I go with Allen Iverson? Well, I love the Sixers, and because let's be honest, the Sixers sucked before Iverson got there. He took them from the bowels of the league, from cellar dwellers, irrelevance to an actual team. They spent years after being one of the worst teams in the league to all of a sudden a new identity. He's going to go on to number one overall picks of the lottery era, holds the record for the highest career scoring average, second in career assists, makes it to the 2001 finals, right? He's the primary engine. He's everything for the 76ers for so many years. In fact, the only reason that I became a Sixers fan in the first place was because of AI. So that's my number two pick there.
Is this your Mount Rushmore of save the franchise picks or best players to never win a championship?
No, well, hey, well, now let me, I don't want to spoil anything. We'll see. So,
Okay. Allen Iverson changed the Sixers fan base and franchise, made them a lot of money. I mean, he was the face of a generation. He was cool, and they didn't not win a championship because of him. Similar to Michael Jordan, Patrick Ewing, you just had Shaq Kobe era.
mhm. Well, yeah, that's the thing is there were so many other great teams too, but Iverson had the Sixers right on the edge
He
for a
did.
long time. So, all right, Joe, number two bust, man. What do you got?
My second pick is Kwame Brown.
Okay, okay.
He kind of became the face of the word bust for an entire generation. Um, and this one's close to home as a Wizards fan as well, as you can imagine. He was the first high school player ever drafted number one overall. Athletic 7-footer, massive upside, raw talent, and unbelievable physical tools. But what made the pressure even crazier was Michael Jordan personally pushed for the Wizards to draft him. Imagine being an 18-year-old kid and Michael Jordan is publicly attached to your success. The confidence issue started pretty early. Jordan notoriously criticized him publicly and privately, from what I hear, and Kwame never seemed comfortable offensively in the NBA. Now, to be fair, unlike Oden, he actually had a long career, over 12 seasons in the league. But when you're the number one overall pick, solid backup center is not what anyone expects, especially when the draft included Pau Gasol, Tony Parker, and Joe Johnson. He became the cautionary tale for drafting raw upside without the right development environment.
I think Kwame Brown is a story that is, like you said, inextricably linked to Jordan. When we were in 2001, by this time, everybody was used to Jordan dominating every time he took the floor or whatever he did. And so there was some belief that, oh, that's going to transfer over to his management style and all of that kind of stuff. And Kwame Brown becomes this lightning rod of going, oh, yeah, that's, maybe Jordan is a great player and not great on the owner president side. So the Brown thing didn't work out. And the hype was so high, Joe, that people would hate watch his games, because they were just like, I can't believe he's that not great over time. So here's the deal. I actually think that's a higher pick than Odin. Odin was hurt. Kwame Brown's got no excuse for why he sucked. So
And I think he's one of the reasons, not to say that all high school players drafted early fell flat. Look at Kobe, LeBron,
mhm.
Dwight Howard. But I think he's a cautionary tale to why we require players to be 1 year after high school to be eligible now.
Well, yeah, and I think that's a good rule. Plus, you get that 1 year of college basketball, it makes it a little more interesting. So.
Although with NIL now, I think that will eventually vanish. That's my personal opinion.
Well, I mean, I think that's the thing is we're still figuring out this stuff. It's 2026 and we don't know what we're doing, right? And it's not like we're not replaying the hits or anything like that. We're changing the game a little bit. NIL and transfer portals have made college basketball different, which has affected the NBA.
If the NBA wants to draft a 13-year-old, they're going to have the ability to. That's what I think the future is going. It's a free market for everyone. High school players are getting shoe deals early now. It's Wild West. Not that they're ready for the NBA that early, but the NBA, it's a you know it's a private market. Do as you wish.
Well, I agree with you, and sometimes when the thing happens, you have to let it break the system before you fix the system, and that leads me into my number three pick here, Joe. And I'm gonna break some of our rules, I guess. I don't know. You can call me out. I know Jim will. But I'm going with two players over 2 years, one team. I'm calling this one double magic. The 1993 lottery win for the Orlando Magic is significant because it is going to force the NBA to change its rules. If you didn't know, the previous year in 92, the Magic won. Surprisingly, they win. They should have won actually because they were the worst team in the league, and they're going to draft Shaquille O'Neal with their number one pick. 1 year later, they're 41 and 41. They just barely missed the playoffs. They had a 1.52% probability. If you're bad at math, that's real bad chance that you're going to win. And then they do. They win again. And somehow they're going to actually trade around Chris Webber in order to get Penny Hardaway. And they're going to put together one of the greatest 1-2 punches on a young team for this Magic's team. Of course, this is going to force the conspiracy theories abound, right? How did they get two of them in a row with such low odds? And the NBA is going to change the rules to drop that chance from 1.5 to zero point 0.5 for the best non-playoff team. But let's talk a little bit about these two guys, Shaquille O'Neal, Penny Hardaway. They are going to bring the franchise of the Magic from basically these new kids on the block to, these guys are actual contenders, and they are going to go straight to the NBA Finals and get swept by the Houston Rockets. But man, they created an all of a sudden exciting, exciting franchise, even if it was short-lived, Joe.
Is that the only time that's happened? Back to back lottery wins?
I think it is because the the odds were bad then and they're dang near impossible. You get half a chance now. So yeah, it's not going to be likely.
And again, in fitting fashion, all the guys you picked did not actually win a championship for the franchise that they're quote unquote saving, Mike.
And I still get one more pick, Joe. I just wanted to point that out. But you're right. But I will say that without Shaq and Penny on that team, I don't think the Magic are going to have any magic in their early years. Who knows what they're going to be in the long run? But in the 90s, the mid 90s, they were absolute excitement.
It certainly put more butts in seats for
Mhm.
Orlando. In the case of all the picks so far, if it's a matter of filling up stands, is saving the franchise from going bankrupt, then yes, they fit the criteria.
Good. Well, we'll see if I can complete your criteria for my next pick. But I am curious, Joe, who else has got some darkness trending in the past here? So,
My third pick is Purvis Ellison,
who?
nicknamed Never Nervous Purvis. He was a star at Louisville. He helped lead Louisville to a national championship, and he looked like the prototype NBA big man for that era. Sacramento, they drafted him first overall, expecting a franchise cornerstone. Instead, this is one of those injuries wrecking a career almost immediately. And unfortunately for him, sports fans are pretty brutal, which led to a new nickname that he deemed in the NBA called out of service Purvis.
Uh,
Part of me picked him just for the fantastic nicknames. He actually had moments where you could see the talent, but he just couldn't stay healthy enough to develop or produce. And when you're the number one overall pick, availability matters just as much as talent.
I'm gonna assume this was the 1970s. I don't know. Purvis Ellison, what year are
You
we
don't
talking
remember
here?
Never Nervous Purvis?
It's not it's not coming up, so
He was in the 90s, 2000s.
okay. So that's a it must have been like
He
a
actually
family
played for the
family name.
Bullets for a minute too.
Oh, there. Must have been a family name there, the Nervous
So
Purvis. So
again, he's a guy I became all too well known with because he came to the Bullets, but at that point it was Greg Oden on the Miami Heat. It was
oh yeah.
we didn't expect much.
Expectations were low for Purvis.
But I was expecting Michael Jordan in Game Six, never nervous Purvis for his clutch play. Um, didn't turn out that way.
You didn't get it. Okay, okay. Well, that's a fun one, Joe. I don't have anything to say about Purvis Ellison other than I'm gonna have to
Well, the
Google
truth is,
that.
we're talking
So
about draft bust, so you don't want them to be. It's kind of good for him that he's not a household name. It's
yeah,
better
that's
for.
it. Yeah, yeah, like
It's
a
the
Kwame
reverse.
Brown.
Kwame
Yeah.
Brown's a household name for the wrong reasons. Purvis got away with just having a not good career, but we don't talk about it in the zeitgeist.
That might be, he's probably upset that we brought him up. I'm sure.
He's like, I've been hiding this long. Let's remind everyone of Bill Buckner in Game Six.
Yeah, leave me alone for
Yeah.
sure. All right, well, I got my fourth and final, and I guess I saved the best for last. Somebody who might actually fit the bill as a franchise savior. This might get a little controversial, Joe, because I'll be honest with you, man. The two names that I had for this pick, I went back and forth on, and I finally settled on this guy, and I'll give my reasons why at the end. But this one is Dirk Nowitzki. Okay. Dirk, the Mavericks do not win the lottery in terms of moving up. The lottery works like this. You are in your position, and the top four teams can swap out. After that, it goes reverse order from how badly you did. And the Mavericks were at nine. Don't move up. Stay at nine. They are able to trade with Milwaukee for the sixth pick, and they get this guy, Dirk Nowitzki. Now, Dirk is going to be the franchise savior in every way, including the one that I haven't put on here for any of the previous ones. He will win them an NBA championship in 2011, their first. He's considered the sole reason the Mavs made the playoffs 13 out of 14 seasons with him at the helm. He is also the team's all-time leading scorer. If I were to put a George Washington up of lottery saviors, Dirk Nowitzki would have to be at the top. And I know what somebody else might say. Here's the concession, right? What about LeBron James? How come he doesn't make your top four? And the reason he doesn't is because of Dirk Nowitzki, for one. Here's the difference between LeBron James and Dirk Nowitzki. James is going to move franchises before he wins his first title. He will come back to Cleveland and get one for them. Dirk Nowitzki stays with the Mavericks his entire career. And when he wins his first championship, who does he beat? He beats the villains. That would be the big three down in Miami after the brutal decision that LeBron James decided to leave his franchise to go to the new guy. The bad guys are going to get beat by Dirk Nowitzki, and therefore I'm going to put him up on my Mount Rushmore and leave LeBron James as a footnote today.
I love Dirk in any context. He's so likable, such a high approval rating. Teammates loved him, fans loved him, whether you rooted for the Mavs or not. And he changed basketball in so many ways. I mean, one, awkward basketball became prolific. I don't know if Joker's game would exist without, or Luka Doncic for that matter. Like, he changed our perception of European basketball. It's not always slam dunks and what we're used to in and one ads, the Allen Iverson game, but it's efficient. And Dirk changed that reputation. Now we've seen draft lottery picks with European players, but the exception going into that draft of Vlade Divac, you didn't have many names you could list off in European. Now, if you're listing the top five best players, over 50% of them are going to be European players. That's expected. Joker's been the best player in the world in the last few years. Luka's one of the in the discussion as well, and then even foreign players in general. Say SGA is Canadian. They're not everyone, or Joel Embiid is originally from the U.S., although he somehow found his way into the U.S. Olympic basketball team bench. I don't know how that happened. I guess that's a green card citizen thing. But anyway, Dirk did win a championship. He was loyal the entire time. He could have left at the tail end to chase a ring as a role player on, say, a Cleveland Cavaliers or Golden State, but he didn't. And I appreciate that loyalty. And not only did he save the franchise, but he still supports the franchise to this day. He's forever embedded in Mavericks' legacy.
Yeah, and I think that that's the other thing is like you think of Mavericks and you think of Dirk Nowitzki, and really you don't think of much else. I don't know
Mhm.
any other major Mavericks players. And part of the reason why is because his game was he's the anti-Jordan, right? Jordan's this flashy guy who's throwing down all of these dunks, and Dirk Nowitzki's a 7-footer shooting three-pointers that somehow are just always going in. And he made basketball more well-rounded, but he also is just Mavericks. I mean, I think of those two. This guy's my perfect pick. The one reason that he doesn't get the number one spot necessarily is because they didn't actually get anything out of the lottery specifically. He was picked ninth. That's where they were. But man, still, what a great bit of luck to be stuck.
He saved the franchise, but to me, ninth isn't really a lottery pick. It's
Fair.
the ninth pick feels like the second round in NBA equivalents as far as expectations go.
I think that's fair, and I think that, and I Googled it and asked some questions, and it seemed to be the general consensus is it counts because it's in the top 12, and I'm like, sure, and I think that's the one thing that makes it not the most perfect pick, but if you're looking at a guy that saved a franchise, it's hard to argue Dirk Nowitzki's not that dude.
100% agree. Um, so I should have ended with you. So I'd rather end on the Dirk story than who my last pick is going to be. But we'll end with some optimism regardless, I promise. Because finally, mine is going to be Anthony Bennett. And this might honestly be the biggest number one overall bust ever. When Cleveland selected Bennett first overall, people were pretty stunned. This wasn't one of those situations where fans hated the pick afterwards. People were confused immediately. Most mock drafts didn't even have him going top five. But Cleveland believed his athleticism and scoring ability would translate very quickly. Instead, almost nothing worked. Conditioning issues, confidence issues, inconsistent, poor fit, lack of development. And the numbers are honestly unbelievable for number one pick. 4.4 points per game, career average, out of the league quickly, and he never became a consistent NBA contributor anywhere. And unlike Odin, where injuries really destroyed greatness, Bennett never really showed sustained flashes at all, which is why many people consider him the ultimate draft bust.
Yeah, this guy, how did he get there? I know they said that they put him in the war room with like a couple like six of these other players and they're like, oh, I guess they're considering him. And then he becomes the pick. He didn't seem to be that special in college. I don't know, man. It's a weird one, right?
Yeah, they took a swing and the swing missed. But if he was drafted, say, number seven, I don't think people would be talking about him because that's the way the NBA works. Outside the top five, the expectations go to like equivalent of NFL fourth round pick. And
Well,
if
I
you're
think
second
that's
round, you're basically undrafted.
yeah, and well, that's the thing. There's, two rounds that really matter. And it's like here, and I think there's something to be said about management and all of that kind of stuff and like draft value, right? Could they have gotten him seventh? It possibly, and it's like in that case, do you draft or do you trade down? These guys are sometimes you get these projects, and sometimes you get like I think of Al Davis and the Raiders, where he looks at a guy that's got really one intangible skill that's like maxed out, and he goes, that guy's gonna be a great player. And sometimes that works out, but 99% of the time they are who they are, and you're going to get an Anthony Bennett. So,
And going back to the point I made earlier, development matters. And if you are a talented player drafted in the wrong franchise that doesn't prioritize development, we've seen it across all sports. It can ruin careers. Look at Sam Darnold, who just won the Super Bowl, but was considered a draft bust going into the Vikings year because of his time with the Jets, where we've seen many failures come out of New York, making us perceive it's not the player, it's the franchise. Because every rookie, I don't care how talented you are, needs to be developed. Their game needs to grow.
Yeah, and I think Kwame Brown's another good example of potentially being in the wrong place. Who knows if he wouldn't have been picked number one.
Eh,
It didn't have the
Kwame had
hype.
his time. He had 12 years to figure it out.
But the expectations were too high, is what I'm saying in the beginning. If you
Sure.
temper those, you might get a guy that was a ninth overall pick that goes, okay, we don't care. The fact that you were number one, Michael Bennett, or yeah, that's the reason why you become the issue, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's an IPO thing, you know. Don't sell your stock too high to start because it only leaves you so far to, rise and a lot farther to fall.
well,
And
that
honestly, that's the terrifying beauty of the NBA draft lottery. Every superstar that changes a franchise forever, there's another pick that sets an organization back 5 years. One ping pong ball can create a dynasty or completely destroy a rebuild. And as a Wizards fan, after decades of disappointment, all I can say is this: please, basketball gods, let this finally be the one that works.
And you never know. That's the beautiful part about it. We can look at it 10 years from now and go, dang, they screwed up. But right now, it's so exciting. And even after the pick happens, and even after the first couple of games, maybe that excitement can stick around. And man, I hope that the Wizards get it for at least a couple of years, if not a franchise savior. This could be it, Joe. Could be it.
Please put in the ether. I could use all the positive encouragement. Manifest is the term they use, right?
That's right. Manifest. Visualize and manifest. Well, I mean, Joe, we've got our list here, right? And these ones are fun because we're not sharing. We're on opposite sides of the spectrum. Yeah, I picked a couple of guys that were franchise saviors, but how much of a saving of a franchise if you don't win a ring? That's why Nowitzki there fits in nicely at the tail end piece of what could happen if you get a lucky roll of the dice, or in this case, a lucky pull of the ping pong ball. But unfortunately, as we saw with Joe's picks, it can go the other way.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad the ping pong ball fell in our favor this year. I'm never going to say you're too late. But I'm optimistic that AJ Dybantsa can be the next Tracy McGrady, another player that never won a championship for his organization. He would fit perfectly on your Mount Rushmore, Mike.
Yeah, we got a couple years later, we'll do that one and we'll throw
Yeah.
them up there. Well, that's our show, right? Did we miss anybody? Who did we miss, or who should be on there, or who did we get it wrong? Jim's gonna tell me I have at least five heads on mine, I'm sure this time around, if not more. Joe's got his bust with Purvis Ellison that's somehow in
Yeah.
there, and
Never
he's
nervous.
never nervous, and he's gonna be upset he's on the show. All right, I guess that's it, man. For the busts, for the wins, the saviors. Watch basketball tonight, Game 7. Who you got? For Joe Mintz, I'm Mike Mintz, and this is the Mount Rushmore Show.